Welcome, Pritesh and Nimesh. I am delighted to have you on this episode. And why don't you start off by telling our listeners a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Thanks, Adam. It's great to be on your podcast. I am Pritesh.
I'm Nimesh.
And
Thank you for having us on.
We're both brothers. We've been in the care sector for just over 4 years, and we own 2 care homes in different localities, one in Suffolk and one in Essex.
Yeah. And the one in Suffolk's Downhall, that's right.
So the one in Suffolk is Glebe House, and the one in Essex is Downhall.
Yeah.
So Glebe House is the one that we've been in for over 4 years, and Downhall for just over two and a half years.
Just over 2 years. All right. Okay. And remind me of the capacity in terms of numbers of beds.
So at Glebe House, we've got registration for 20 beds, and at Downhall, registration for 38 service users.
All right, that's great. And because you were in retail before, weren't you? So tell us how you got into the care sector.
We were in retail for a long time. So our parents had always done retail since the 70s and so on. We probably got into the sector. Firstly, we saw a lot of bad press. My brother Pritesh, he was over in Canada for a little while, and we used to see a lot of bad press, especially in Panorama, and we saw that everything negative was written about the care home. So we decided to go into the sector. We've got an uncle that has been in the sector for quite a while, over 30 years. And we said that the way we've always been brought up is to respect and look after our elders. This has always been instilled to us from a very young age. And we were really appalled by
some of the negative press,
and so on about care homes. So that was one of the main reasons we came into this sector. And we did actually look at quite a lot, probably before Glebe House, over 50 different care homes in the sector before we actually chose Glebe House.
I see, right. Yeah. And tell us a little bit more about where it went from there and what you decided to do and why you made that first acquisition.
So Glebe House, we saw in 2016 summer. I remember the date, in August. We loved the home.
Yeah.
We knew we can work with this home and we could probably make it a lot better.
Yes.
Purchased it in June 17.
Okay.
And what a roller coaster it was. We went in and didn't realize a lot of the paperwork wasn't up to date because we're new entrants into the sector.
Of course, yeah.
We're learning as we're working, and we got a healthcare consultant on board. And I still remember the day we had our first meeting, me, Nimesh, and our manager, Trish. After that meeting, she'd mentioned so many things that needed to be addressed. On our drive back home, I told Nimesh, what have we got ourselves into? And our consultant actually said, it'll probably take you a year to turn this around. And we said, no, we want to do it within a year, before. So
yes,
we started cracking down on the list of things that needed to be addressed, things that needed to be improved in the home. And within 6 months, we'd turned it around. And we were actually knocking on CQC's door saying, come and inspect us, because unfortunately, when we purchased the home, during the sale process, halfway through or 3/4 of the way through, the old owners had just
I think what happened was, because the sale was going through, they'd completely taken their eye off the ball.
Right.
And the home went into required improvement in all 5 key lines of inquiry. We were very close to actually pulling out, but then we spoke to our healthcare consultant who reassured us that these things we can turn it around. But we didn't know until we went in how bad the paperwork was actually.
And the other issue was the bank, because the bank is obviously financing now. For the bank, they could have pulled the plug soon as that requires improvement come through the CQC report. They could have easily told me and Nimesh that, look, we're not willing to finance this business because it's gone into this category. You guys are new entrants, but they had trust in us. So in the end, we had a meeting with them and they actually said they're going to finance for this business, but we've got faith in you guys and we think that you guys could turn it around.
We'll always really appreciate the bank backing us, even though they did not need to. But I remember the first probably I think 6 to 8 months was very hard work, but we've always been used to hard work. We've always done anywhere in the region of 80 to 100 hours in retail. So
the hours weren't an issue.
We had the work ethic, our great customer service from retail. We brought that on as well to the care sector. The first, like I was saying, 6 to 8 months, we were driving back and forth. We were probably working close to up to 15 hours a day to get the paperwork and so on, the compliance side completely turned around. And like my brother said, we managed to do that within 6 months, and our healthcare consultant was really, really pleased that we'd managed to do it in a short space of time.
And the year, I think, was it May 18, we got inspected and we got all good. So we turned all the required
Now, how did you turn it around so quickly? You talk about many hours, your background in customer service, but so coming here from afresh, like this was a sector you didn't know. So where did you learn and who did you get advice from to help you?
So advice we got from our healthcare consultant in terms of the compliance side, going back to our customer service side. Now, customer service, you have customer service. If you have good customer service in retail, you bring that across with you and you know how to manage people, you know how to speak to people correctly, to reassure people and so on. Now, that became easier for us as we were communicating and making friends, and also everyone in our care home are our extended family. So to build that trust up came our customer service side of things.
Yeah.
So we started mingling with the residents. Also, our residents are our eyes and ears on the floor for us. So they're the ones that we will always speak to and find out to make sure that they are having the best possible life in our care homes.
I see. Amazing. So you made this quite quick turnaround, obviously applying these principles and your experience to change things around very, very quickly. But as you said, you felt you were really dumped in the deep end and go on.
One thing I forgot to mention was, so the paperwork side we were struggling with also because we'd just come into the care home as new entrants. People were still thinking what is going to happen with the new owners. So we found it very difficult filling beds when we unfortunately lost service users. So that year our occupancy went down to 13 residents. And they were very difficult times because the reputation of the home, we had to bring it back up from required improvements and to build the trust in the community for the people to realize that, look, what we're doing is making this a much better home than it had been previously.
I see. Okay. And when did Downhall come into the picture?
So funny story, Downhall we saw before we saw Glebe House.
Right.
The agent asked to see book a viewing, and he booked a viewing, and then a week later he said the owners have taken it off the market. So a year on, we purchased Glebe House, and then a year into Glebe House, January 2018, the agent emails us back to say this care home's back on the market, and I know you guys were interested when it first went on the market. So we booked a viewing on the 8th of January, and I think within a month we put an offer in, it was accepted, and by March 1st, 2019, we took possession of Downhall.
That was a very big risk in ourselves as well, because
Yeah,
we still hadn't been inspected for Glebe House
by CQC
Okay.
at
by
that point.
CQC, so we didn't know what we were doing was correct, but we had reassurance from our healthcare consultant saying that, look, we have got everything in order. Also, we were still struggling with beds at Glebe House, so it was a big jump to go into another
bigger-
care home at that time,
and nearly double the size.
and nearly double the size of our first home. But yeah, we jumped into that home and took over on the 1st of March 2019.
And what happens next?
That was
that was probably our toughest. That was the most toughest time in our lives, because we lost the person in our life, our father, who in terms of business and with us, he was everything to us.
yeah, he's taught us everything about business.
Everything we know is because of his knowledge. So we unfortunately we lost him on the 19th of March, so 19 days after taking over. But one thing always on the back of our minds was, he'd always blessed us and said, you've got 2 care homes, make sure you run them to the best of your abilities
and look after them. And that, I think that's what drove us and got us through that period.
I see.
Because taking over a brand new business, it takes a lot of your time, and I think that got us through that period. And even that home, Downhall, we struggled with beds for a good
probably a year. Yeah, probably a year, and then obviously COVID came into came into impact. So it's been probably a 18-month struggle, but now we're looking at the light at the end of the tunnel, which is great now.
All that dedication, hard work's coming
to fruition.
Back to you.
Yeah.
And you talked about COVID, and I know we've talked a lot about that over the previous months. But I think your occupancy now is good on both of these homes. But what have you learned? What have you learned?
PR.
This 4-year induction into running, owning, and operating these homes.
So the biggest thing we learned was the way advertising and promoting a home has changed. The first ever promotion we tried to do at Glebe was actually leaflet distribution and advertisements in newspapers, which was the way
I think it used to be
done. Used to be done like that, and we realized pretty quickly that doesn't work, because most of those ads go in the bin. A lot of time people just whiz through that. And then I think it was in 2019, middle of the year, we actually got in touch with Adam and his team, and I think that was probably a blessing in disguise that we got in touch with each other, and since then, the way the marketing is done by your team, Adam, it's been phenomenal.
We've never
looked back after then.
I was not convinced, as you know, Adam, when we first had our meeting.
I think I had to convince my brother, because my brother was still.
I thought that this sort of marketing, no way can it work. But how wrong was I?
I had to convince my brother, because I said that, look, there's no harm in trying. Let's cut out the other ads we're doing, the marketing, and let's concentrate purely on the PR side, promoting, because a lot of the news out there was still always negative, because negative news always sells. And what Adam had told us about the PR is very different to normal advertising. And we learned very quickly, I think within the first couple of months, that the promoting the home is so influential, and you need to keep on top of it, because if you do stop, you will see that negative impact the month after. You won't see it straight away, but it will hit you if you don't keep promoting your home.
And what kind of promotion and initiatives do you feel has made a difference in particular? What has made the most impact, you feel?
In terms of stories?
Yeah, in terms of, I know that some of the things you'd be helping with is quite strongly on the social media side, on the Facebook side, on the PR, the media exposure. Is there something that, out of all of that, well, how they work together as a package, do you feel? What impacts do you think that they have?
The impact is huge. Like Facebook, with your team, we've grown the following to over 2,000 followers, whereas it was on 300, not much interaction. We actually get inquiries from Facebook now, which is unusual. We've never seen that before. The stories that hit the newspapers, quite a few have gone national. They've been really good for the home.
I think in our old home, we never actually had a Facebook page before
Yes.
we came on board with you guys.
Yes.
And I think that's grown to
Nearly 1,000 followers.
nearly 1,000 followers in
And it's
close to 2 years now.
It's not just for, okay, yes, you need to fill beds, you get inquiries from there, but even jobs. You get a lot of people asking for jobs from social media now.
We've also had so people from social media, and the way it's done, whereby they can get a hold of somebody in our home. We've had families from abroad, whereby they'll be able to get a hold of ourselves or our managers to communicate with their loved ones. Now, without the PR, they probably wouldn't have been able to get in touch with them.
Yeah, they wouldn't know that person. It could be a family friend or someone. They wouldn't know which home they're in, but because of social media, the power.
Also, the stories to the radio stations, even national media. We've like we've had one story where it's hit national media. You're never going to get that with leaflet drops or the old way of advertising. It's not going to work. And always these PR stories, when somebody is looking for a home, they want to see the good things that are happening in homes. Not many people actually see the good things that are happening in care homes. You've got to put it out there, right?
Yeah, but that's great. You certainly, I mean, I know that for other operators listening, some operators think they don't have good stories within their homes that will really make the headlines. But I think that it so happens that your homes have always got wonderful stories, because you've got great staff, you've got great interventions, you have great initiatives. But I think, the real truth of the matter is that there are, if you can get the care level up, which you've done, then there are wonderful stories of care, positive care within every single care home. There are dedicated staff, great initiatives, great therapeutic interventions, unique personalized care.
That's right.
And what you've been very good at celebrating is all of that. Now, if I remember with Downhall as well, there was a reputational issue that you felt you had to deal with. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so when we took over Downhall, the word in the villages was that because our surname's Patel. Patel's a very familiar surname, and there was a dentist, I think, in one of the villages that's got a bad reputation, and they thought those Patels were the Patels that have taken over Downhall. And for months, there was news that the dentists have taken over this home. They're going to run it into the ground. They're going to close it down, develop it. So we had to address a lot of these issues.
And the way it works in the villages, news stories spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
So we'd heard stories that we're gonna turn it into a hotel, and so on and so forth, and turf the residents out, which was
we had to call a meeting with all our staff, because then as that filters through to your employees, they now get worried that they've got these jobs, and in a few months, if these guys turn it into something else or close it down, their jobs are at stake. So
I
we
see.
held emergency meetings with staff to say, look, we're not investing in this place to shut it down. We've put in new call bell systems, spent thousands. Now, if we were in it to develop it into something else, no businessman would spend thousands of pounds trying to improve the home when you're looking at doing something else with it. And over time, they've realized that, hang on, these guys, they're right.
And it's building, like I was saying, it's building up the trust. Because as time goes on, when the homes are the occupancy levels are at the right levels, then we reinvest the money back into the homes. And as everyone started seeing that, look, these guys are actually they're sticking by their word. They are putting back into the home. They're making it a much better place for the residents, and also for the staff as well. Because at the end of the day, they are key. The carers, they do such a fabulous job there. And seeing these stories, seeing the residents having fun with the staff and so on, that does bring a smile to everyone's face.
Wonderful, great. And I think with Downhall, you're 38 beds home. You dropped at some point when it was really bad during COVID. But what did it drop down to?
13.
13, and now it's about 34. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So much better place to be in, obviously. Well, you know, we've been working with you for a while, and I know that you've just shown this immense dedication, plus great experience, and a real ethos of wanting to get it right while providing great care. I know that was always your top priority, which it always should be. But I think you've exemplified it, which is why I hope all our listeners will be taking keen note of everything that you are saying. Now, before we go, is there anything that you would like to add that we've missed?
Sure. I'd like to add one thing, just to say we're not perfect, but we try our best, and every day is a learning curve for us, even for our managers. Compliance changes, laws change, you have to adapt and change. If you don't change, you get left behind. And we're willing, me, my brother, our management team, all our staff are willing to learn, and we accept if there's changes, we'll adapt, make those changes and continue on.
And I'd like to add just a really big appreciation to our managers and our care staff. They really do a wonderful job. It's not as easy as it looks from the outside.
Exactly.
It's very tough and challenging, but they always come in with a smile every day to work. And also, I think it's pleasing for them to know that, because my brother and I are so hands-on operators, we're always there at the end of a phone call. If they phoned us and they said, we need you here, we'll drop everything and be there for them. So that is reassuring for them as well. But yeah, we really appreciate all the hard work everyone does for our service users.
And we'd like to thank you and your team, Adam, at Springup.
Yeah, and lastly, a big thank you to you
guys.
guys.
That's nice.
Because without you guys, those inquiries, and some of those inquiries we had, I think a couple of months ago, we had nearly 20 something inquiries in a month. And I remember at the beginning, we were having 2 or 3 every 3 or 4 months at Downhall. So it was,
And do you remember the one inquiry we had last October? The gentleman was in Cyprus.
Yes.
Emailed.
Go through that story, because that was a great one, I think, again, which our listeners should take note of.
A lot of owners, directors, managers, as soon as they see an inquiry from abroad, they just disregard it and think, oh, it's a waste of time, it's not worth engaging. However, our manager and us, we did engage, and we probably have a trail of 50 emails going back and forth. The first questions he'd ask is where we were, the services we provided, and then for a few weeks he'd consistently ask for banks that are close by. We'd send him maps of the nearest banks to him, and a few months, this was while COVID was going on, he'd book tickets to come here and they'd get cancelled. So at one stage we thought, is this someone just pulling our leg, just messing around? But we consistently engaged with him. And I think back in February, was it February?
Yeah.
He sent us a ticket, an e-ticket, that he's booked his ticket and he's coming to Downhall on a certain date. And me and our manager, Karen there, we thought, he's not pulling our leg, is he? We'll only believe it now
when he
arrives at Downhall. In fact, he arrived a week later at the doorstep of Downhall with his brother.
Really?
And we're absolutely gobsmacked. And that was because if we would have stopped engaging, he wouldn't have come.
Yes.
He wouldn't have come. And you don't realize every inquiry is important. You must address and action it and keep on top of them, because that would have been an inquiry we would have lost.
I get it. I understand. Yeah.
You've got to always be active and proactive.
Yeah.
And you will be successful. It's hard work and dedication.
Yeah.
This was I think it was 6 to 8 months after we started first engaging with him. He actually moved into Downhall.
And it's your team will give us the leads, but then we have to make sure we keep on top of those leads. It's no good you giving us the leads and then we just sit and expect that person to get in touch with us. 9 times out of 10, they want to speak to the manager, right? So
nothing will come on a plate. You've got to put a bit of effort
into it.
Yeah.
Well, look, what a wonderful anecdote, and I think you're absolutely right. It shows the importance of power of staying in touch, staying engaged, and following up all those inquiries, and don't letting them slip, and being personable. I think has made a big difference for you. Well, look, my pleasure, Nimesh, Pritesh. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us on. Thank you,
for
Adam.
having us.